Moving on to the manifold, you want to inspect all the manifold mounts, make sure that there's no loose hardware, that everything is in good shape, check there's no cracks or damage to anything from the previous season. Also of note, if you take the manifold off for storage or for in certain crop conditions, make sure you mark the hole locations to ensure that everything goes back together the same way as it came apart. That way it saves a lot of adjustment and issues when you get to the field. If you've got a split reel head that has 2 or more reels, you'll have a center pivot assembly. Visually inspect, make sure that this hose is still pliable, no holes, no tears. Also, check any mounting hardware, ensure that it's all secure, tight, and in good shape. The design of our center pivot allows flexibility of the reels while maintaining alignment of the 2 manifolds. Moving on to the nozzles, you want to check to make sure that they're all secure in the saddle, tight to the manifold. You'll want to check to ensure that they are all properly aligned with one another. You'll also want to check the condition of the tip. The secret to the AWS air reel system is in the tip of this nozzle. That is what creates the flow, that is what creates the velocity, that is what creates the even fan pattern. Without the nozzle tip, the fan would be useless. So this is one of the most critical portions of your air bar to ensure proper performance. You want to check to make sure that they haven't been cut, damaged, closed up by interference or hitting anything. You want to check for wear if they've been rubbing against the reel fingers, ensure that there's no holes or damage that way. One simple quick check is to take a metallic object, walk along, give each one a tap. This one doesn't ring quite the same. And that's because it's plugged. You'll notice that quite quickly, and most often it is near the end cap end. A screwdriver, clothes hanger, piece of wire poking up through, and a little tap will shake that material loose. This one happens to be wadded up with some paper just for demonstration purposes. Another item to check on the nozzle is the gap in these lips. Over time they will want to open up and return to their natural round shape, and so I take a 3/8 bolt. Use it as a gauge just to check. They should be around the 3/8 mark. This one here is quite sloppy, so I'm going to just take my bolt and I'm going to pinch those lips down, using the bolt as a gauge, as a measuring device. To the end cap end of the manifold, after a season of use, there will be dirt and debris piled up in here. You want to make sure that this cap is free to rotate in the saddle, but more importantly, you want to take the cap off and clean out any debris that has caught in the end here, because it will build up at this end and eventually plug your nozzles. Sometimes you may need to poke in there with a stick to break it up. Fire up the fan at an idle and let it blow out. The center pivot actuator, you'll want to check the mounting hardware, inspect all the linkages, ensure that there is no damaged, broken, bent, or loose hardware. When performing any work with the electrical harnesses on your AWS system, especially the center pivot or the actuator on the end of the manifold for the reel tilt, you'll want to very carefully route the wire harness to ensure that it has unrestricted travel with the reel moving fore and aft, up and down, and that it's not going to get pinched when the reel goes through its travel. You also want to ensure that it's secured so that it does not interfere or get hung up on the reel as the reel rotates. Looking for an original OEM harness, hydraulic hoses, and following their route pattern is usually the best practice.